Hello everybody, this is TipTop MTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my first cube draft on MTG Arena. For those of you who don't know, today, June 12th, was the launch of Arena's first player cube draft, and to celebrate it, they're giving every player a free cube draft. Now, I don't believe they said that anywhere like on the home screen, but if you go into the draft, you can just click the start button and it'll be completely free. Looking at the cube, it looks pretty fun. There's a lot of very clear themes, and, you know, starting at the very beginning here in my draft, I got Bastion of Remembrance, which makes me really want to go with a Rakdos Sacrifice kind of deck, and I managed to pull Witch's Oven, which is an amazing card. Now I just need either Cat or some sort of steal effect, and then I have this, like, really awesome combo, and so that's kind of what I'm going to try and pick. Now, it is a little early to tell, but here I get Ayara, and I debated between that or the Afterlife card, because, you know, it's something I can sacrifice and make it harder to target stuff, you know, during my turn. Pretty good. But at this point, Ayara seems like the better bet because it's a sacrifice deck at this point. You know, I want to ping them with damage. I want to sacrifice my creatures, and Ayara lets me do all of that. So at this point, I'm looking pretty good. I'm starting to pick some color fixing, and I'm still not sure if I'm going to run white or not at this point, but I grabbed the Temple just in case. You know, at this point, I got some removal. And then we open up this pack, and, you know, there's a lot of interesting things in here, but I end up with Mastermind's Acquisition to go fetch one of my better cards, whether it be Ayara or Witch's Oven or whatever. And so here I end up, you know, do I get Reassembly Skeleton? Do I get Luminous Broodmoth? I think the best bet here is Luminous Broodmoth, and at this point I decide, yes, I am playing white. At this point, this pack pick, I don't really have anything, and the people at the table were being slow, as always. But, you know, at this point, my hands, or my deck, is looking pretty good. I don't really have anything that great yet. But, you know, I get some very important cards. I'd almost take the Crow and War because of the steal effect. But then, here, Cruel Celebrant. Now, here, I'm starting to get a deck, something that can win by pinging my opponents to death. Now, I picked Brain Maggot. It's just a creature, you know, it lets me look at their hand. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to throw that in my deck, but yeah, then I get Priest of the Forgotten Gods. So at this point, Priest of the Forgotten Gods, Ayara, Bastion of Remembrance, Witch's Oven, a couple interesting cards, Plague Bearer. These are all cards you'd see in an actual sacrifice deck, and I'm just getting a ton of them. Now, here I decide to go with the land because I don't want to get messed up on colors. So, you know, I'm starting to pick up lands, card draw. I get Grey Merchant of Asphodel, which might also see play in this. And I got, oh my gosh, I was very excited about this. I got the Red Demigod. I almost passed it up. Like, I did pass it up, and I was like, it's never going to come back to me. But it managed to get back to me as my last pick. So then we go in, you know, I got Cauldron's Familiar, which is something I missed actually seeing, and Woe Strider. So I have Woe Strider, Cauldron Familiar, and the Oven, which are all three amazing cards, especially together. We have Priest of the Forgotten Gods, Cruel Celebrant. I'm adding in here Ministrant of Obligation, so now I have more things to sacrifice. And so at this point, I'm just picking things that are good to sacrifice. You know, cards that maybe have a little bit of value, but I also don't really care if I kill. So, you know, that's a lot of what I'm picking here. I'm also picking mana fixing. And this is the final pack. So, looking at my overall card pool, it's very good. I have a lot of things that care about when creatures die. A lot of sack outlets, a lot of creatures that are good to kill, which is what the deck wants. I also have a decent amount of removal. A little bit more would have been nice, but yeah. Overall, this is pretty good. Now, you'll notice this video is going to be much longer than a lot of my normal videos, and that's because I'm actually going to go with you and show you all of the games. They're all at 2x speed, but I figured I'd show you the entire draft experience so you can see kind of how I did and how the strategy ended up working out. Now, obviously, each draft pool is going to be different, but you can see what kind of things other people are playing, and so I thought that would be useful. I can also talk about the cube as a whole. Overall, I had a really fun time. Now, of course, this is a Phantom Cube, so I don't get to keep any of those cards, but it was really fun to draft. Now, here, I realize I don't have white, which, you know, I kind of need that for Cruel Celebrant and Ministrant. Other than that, I have, like, nothing else to do. Now, I decided to make the call, like, I'm like, do I do Order of Midnight? I could save that, but I'm just like, 2/2 is going to be good. I can start hitting him for 2. He's already killing himself. Pretty good. And then he plays Woe Strider. So at this point, I'm like, okay, he's playing a very similar deck to me, except I'm playing red. Now, I pull Claim the Firstborn, which is pretty good if I can manage to get a sack outlet. And even if I can't, I can wait until his a masked creature gets super duper big, you know, right before it's about to get lifelink, I can then steal it, send it right at him, which, you know, that's pretty decent. But yeah, he plays Vraska, which is unfortunate because at this point I have no way of dealing with Vraska unless I steal his 2/2 and swing it at him, which, you know, I could possibly do. But at this point, I decide that Bastion Remembrance is a better move here because I need to get my value engine running, and this just seems like the better bet. I need to get white as well, white mana. It's looking rough at this point, especially when he destroys the one. So I basically just spent my entire turn making a 1/1, which is not very great. But, you know, it turns around. I do manage to get Woe Strider, and now I have claimed the Firstborn and Woe Strider. So what I decided to do is I decided to take control of the 3/3, swing it around. Now, I don't want him to kill it because I want him to think that, hey, you know, it's not going to get sacrificed, but it is. It gets sacrificed to Woe Strider. You know, that might have been a bad decision to put that on the bottom, but I just don't want to pay life right now. He plays Polukranos, which is kind of unfortunate, and now I managed to pull Cauldron Familiar, so now all I'm looking forward to Witch's Oven and or white mana. And, you know, the 6/6 is still very scary. I don't really want him to get it, or, like, to hit me with it, because I'm not low on life, but I'm also not at full life. And all of my creatures are kind of tiny, and he's gonna have 2 giant creatures, and eventually one of them will have lifelink. So it's looking unfortunate for me now, but if I can get Cruel Celebrant and Ministry of Obligation onto the battlefield, along with you know, Witch's Oven, I might be able to pull this out. So he attacks with Polukranos, I block with the Goat, which I believe was the right choice. I know I could have weakened him, but I'm planning on, like, just doing that every turn. I finally get a white mana, so I'm able to play Cruel Celebrant. So now when I do that, he's going to be hurting himself, and he's already hurting himself. So yeah, it's looking... like, at this point, I think you know, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I am in the commanding position here. I know he has a big creature, but just my Cruel Celebrant mixed with Woe Strider is just so powerful. Especially with Ministry of Obligation in my hand, that will give me 3 triggers, that's 3 damage, getting him down to 7, Cauldron Familiar, that's 6, sacrificing the 1/1, that's 5, he'll take 1 from his, so at this point, I just need, like, 4 more creatures. You know, and that is a lot of creatures, but it's not impossible. Now, if I draw a land, it's impossible, and it's looking like I need to win this next turn, otherwise he will get Song of Freylease off. So Song of Freylease looks like at this point it's going to be my downfall, and I'm hoping, you know, I'm not really doing the math, but it's looking rough here. You might have, you know, I don't know if there's really anything I could have done differently except maybe block Polukranos so that when he tramples through this turn, he does slightly less damage. Now, he does gain a bunch of life, which is also really unfortunate, and he gets the Scry, which means he's going to get something really amazing. So at this point, it's looking very unfortunate. Especially, you know, he's coming at me, I'm kind of doing math in my head, but I'm just going to let it do, you know, I'm going to let it do whatever it wants. I decided to sacrifice the 2/1, you know, that's what I was going to do anyways. It's 2 toughness versus 1 compared to the other thing, and what I decided to do is I decide to block. Now, you'll notice here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to block with literally everything, because, you know, I need to, and there is a card in my deck that could theoretically save me. If I can survive. But what I decided to do is it's smart to sacrifice the 1/1s. Why? Because I'm going to gain a life from them. So I'm either preventing a damage from being taken or gaining a life and hitting him. So, you know, in the long run, it's better. It also lets me scry. Storm's Wrath, I'm like, okay, I might be able to do something with this. Maybe, I mean, he'll still have Polukranos, but I end up at -1 life. If I would have been able to survive that, I probably would have won that game. Maybe, or at least I wouldn't have died as early, but either way, we move on to the next game after that defeat, and I'm like, oh, maybe my deck isn't that good, you know, I thought I had really good synergy here, so we move into the next game. This hand is pretty decent, except I'm missing black, which, you know, that was a rough choice. Looking back at it, I don't know if I would have done that, because 3 of the cards in my hand are uncastable, but I figure I have Legion's Warboss to fall back on. It's a very powerful card. I can get a bunch of creatures out, and then that way, when I get my black mana, you know, a lot of cool stuff will happen. Now, he does Ashiok me, and he gets rid of the stupid Witch's Oven while I have Cauldron's Familiar in hand, which is very unfortunate, but I do get Legion's Warboss, who is on track to kill Ashiok next turn if it survives. Now he mills me, you know, gets rid of a bunch of black lands or swamps, I don't know why I couldn't think of the name. Gets rid of a bunch of swamps, which is unfortunate, but he plays the Icy Manipulator, which, I don't know, it's kind of meh. It'll end up being kind of useful, but here it's looking like I'm going to win. He has nothing on board. He's playing mono blue, which is kind of weird. It looks like I'm going to win at this point, especially when he doesn't do anything on his turn, although that means he could be saving mana. He decides to tap my 2/2, which I think was the right move, because that generates 3 damage versus anything else that just gives 2, because he attacks for 2 and then mentors. So at this point, I just need more black mana. I would have liked to have played Cauldron Familiar last turn too, but he plays Mox Amber and Tezzeret, which Mox Amber is a really weird card in this deck. This is telling me that this is not a super, experienced draft player, or, it hasn't really played. I don't know. It's just not a card I would have put in here. Maybe it's a person, sorry about that. Maybe it's a person who likes to play older formats where their Moxes are better, but in this it just feels kind of meh, because you can't really guarantee you're going to have a legendary permanent that could literally be a dead card in your hand, unless he's playing mono blue legendaries. Now, I could have probably swung a little bit better here, but at this point I'm just like, I'm going to end up winning. It doesn't really matter. I decided not to sacrifice anything with Priest, which you might have said there was an argument for, but I just wanted Tezzeret dead. I don't want him to draw a bunch of cards or any of that. And I guess also he's probably playing an artifact deck. Now looking back at it, I guess the Mox probably makes a little bit more sense, but mono blue I feel like monocolored cards are kind of weird. Now, okay, whoa. I just feel like monocolored decks in cubes are really weird. Now, if you notice, his weird art land, just a second ago, it just changed from fancy art, or from a different art to a new art, and I even check, his lands were doing something weird. Either way, sorry, back onto the game. At this point, I'm at 1 win, I'm just like, what can I win? You know what, I'll continue. I decided, normally what I do is I play a couple games now, a couple games later, a couple games, later. And this, so far this hand, was meh. I just wanted all of my colors, because last game I missed my colors. Here I end up with all of my colors perfectly. So I end up with a 2, a 3, and a 4 drop, assuming I can pull another white mana. Now, I do not pull another white mana yet, but, I get Cruel Celebrant and Woe Strider. Again, looking very good, especially with Luminous Broodmoth and Cauldron Familiar. Everything's looking pretty good. So I decided to play Cruel Celebrant, and I decided to swing with my 1/1. If he would have traded, we both would have gotten death triggers. I feel like mine would have been slightly better. But then I play Woe Strider and Cauldron Familiar, so I have a pretty beefy board state at this point. He only has a 1/1, which means I'm free to attack with both my creatures. And, if he tries to exile something or, do something weird with something, I can just sacrifice it. He plays Ariel, Knight of Windrace, which it seems really weird, but maybe it's just to be able to make tokens, because it can do that. But yeah, it's normally a Knight synergy card, which he doesn't seem to have any Knight synergy as of yet. But then I play Luminous Broodmoth, which I don't think I've ever resolved in MTG Arena. And so, mixed with Woe Strider, it's very potent, where you can sacrifice something and then it re-enters the battlefield and you can sacrifice it again, especially mixed with Cruel Celebrant. It also allows me to re-get ETB triggers for something like Dusk Legion Zealot. I can sacrifice it to Woe Strider to scry, and then... actually, I don't think I can scry first. I have to draw first. But, it comes back to the battlefield. I draw a card, then I scry, which is kind of cool. And he says, good game, which at this point I'm thinking it, especially if I can get Apex down on the battlefield. But, yeah, at this point looking pretty good. I have 4 damage in the air. He's down to 10 life. I can theoretically make all of my creatures except for the Woe Strider. I can make them flying if I needed to just up my damage. But also I have this administrative obligation or whatever, and what I can do with that is I can sacrifice it to make 2/1/1s. It comes back to the battlefield as a 2/1 flyer, so that makes it turns 1 creature into 3 flying creatures like this, and then I can also then re-sacrifice it again to get 2 more. And so at this point I can just kill him with damage by just sacrificing. Now I wish he would have just conceded. He knew he was dead, but he made me go through all of this, which people concede. You can get to your next game faster. Either way, sacrifice everything. You know, I didn't even have to sacrifice any of my key engine pieces. I was just able to sacrifice all the little guys, and that was enough to win the game. So yeah, that's really how my deck wanted to function. That was probably like the peak of what the deck could do and what it was trying to do. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm happy if I lose. I was able to do what I want to do. So we move on to the next game. And we get, you know, this hand is meh, but this hand is even a lot better. It has Witch's Oven, which, you know, is a key part of the deck. I need a sack outlet. It has stuff to sacrifice as well. So now I just need some payoff for sacrificing. Now I have Luminous Broodmouth, which really isn't a payoff for sacrificing, but it lets me sacrifice things easier. Now he looks like he's playing a little bit of a faster deck, and unfortunately it has a creature that has hexproof from black, which, yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, I'm able to get out Witch's Oven, which means that if he tries to target my stuff with spells, I can just sacrifice it for food, eventually maybe eat that food, or save it for a Cauldron Familiar. So, pretty, like, while it looks like I'm losing here, and I think I am at this point, the stuff in my hand can help me recover. What I'm able to do is I'm able to get out Luminous Broodmoth, which should stop the attacks at least for a turn, because it can successfully block literally every creature and kill every creature of his. Moving on, like, now I'm like, what is he going to play? He plays Furious Rise, which is just a draw engine. You know, I'm not super concerned about it right now. Right now, I'm just worried about surviving. I'm already down to 10 life, and now I'm down to 9. What I'm able to do is I'm able to play Ministrant of Obligation, which means that I can, you know, block his creatures if he manages to get rid of my Luminous Broodmoth. And or if he decides he's just going to attack anyways. And okay, here's what he does. He destroys target tapped creature, right? And which wasn't a scary creature, and then goes to tap my creature. And I don't know why he didn't. I mean, I guess, okay, he was trying to get rid of, I don't know, I would have tapped Luminous Broodmouth and then killed it, but, you know, that's just me. Either way, I'm able to sacrifice it, you know, get the food. That was pretty good. And what I decided to do is play Apex, destroy his thing that's tapping everything, because it's really messing with combat. And I decided to just swing with everything, except for the Ministrant, to leave up for blocking. Like, I don't really care if it dies. That's the whole purpose of it, is to die. And it served its purpose, so I let it die. And what actually happens is I sacrifice it. So I get a food, a Satyr, and 2 1/1 flyers for one thing dying, which is kind of fun. So yeah, that's how I won that game. And so at this point, I'm like, woo, I'm totally going to lose this now. I've won too many games in a row. Arena's going to be like, no, now it's time for you to lose. So I go into this game, again, expecting fully to lose, and we'll see what happens. You know, the queue time was actually, like, quite long on this, which kind of surprised me, and that also added to my, like, concern of, oh no, they're trying to match me against the perfect person who will destroy my deck. But my hand is pretty good. I have all of my colors. I have Cruel Celebrant, Cauldron Familiar, and Woe Strider, and a removal spell. So, you know, I am looking pretty good here. I'm going to be able to play Cauldron Familiar or a Cruel Celebrant next turn. Now, he plays a 2/3, which is kind of rough for my deck. There's not really much that can block that successfully without dying. You know, I have the Luminous Broodmoth, but that's not in my hand. So I play a 1/2, which I'm definitely not going to block with. So he is, like, free to attack. He gets the 1/3 out, which is unfortunate, because if he wouldn't have, I would have played Plaguecrafter. I decide that, you know what, I'm going to play Woe Strider. It gives me a 0/1 to block with, and it technically can trade with the 2/3, and so if his 2/3 is important to him, he won't attack, because my Woe Strider can come back. His 2/3 cannot. I mean, it can with other cards, but now I feel a lot more confident, you know, blocking with Woe Strider, because I can use Order of Midnight, and then I play, you know, Cauldron Familiar, and that's all I do on my turn, which is kind of a pathetic turn. You might have argued that I should have put down Order of Midnight, but with Cruel Celebrant and Woe Strider on the board, they're both very important pieces to my deck, especially Cruel Celebrant. I feel like it would have been wasteful to not leave the protection in my hand. Either way, I'm able to destroy the 0/2, Ministrant of Obligation, showing its head again. I decided to play it. Again, being able to just block stuff and not really care is super nice. And, you know, if I need to, I can sacrifice basically 3 creatures to scry 3-ish. You know, scry 1 3 times, which is different. But, yeah, this is overall looking pretty good. And he plays a 7/7 snake, which, yeah. But I have Eat to Extinction in my hand, and so I'm not super worried about it. It doesn't have haste. Now, what I decide to do is I decide, oh, I'm going to kill it. And then I'm like, oh, maybe not, actually. I'm going to wait until their turn, because what if they do something, you know? What if they play something bigger that's scarier? I'll decide to wait. Now, they target it with something, which means Seasons of Growth. It does get a trigger, but with that, it also means that I'm able to get rid of Mantle of Growth, which is the aura. And on top of my library is Claim the Firstborn, which is amazing because I have Wolf Strider, which means I can steal their 2/3, sacrifice it, and then swing with a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, this is looking pretty good. And also ending up saving that kill spell ended up working out. I'd rather have them draw a card than have one of their creatures get +4/+4. Of course, I didn't know about Claim the Firstborn. You know, if I would have known, I wouldn't have stolen it. Or I wouldn't have let them... I would have let them put the +4/+4 on their thing. But whatever. I let my Cauldron Familiar die, or sacrifice it, actually, because, you know, it doesn't really matter. I get Ayara, which is a very potent card, especially in this deck with, if I can manage to get Cauldron Familiar going, you know, that's 2 damage instead of 1. Pretty good. At this point, I'm just trying to whittle him away before he can do anything. Now, then he plays Platinum Angel, which is very unfortunate because it basically means even if I can whittle him down, I need a kill spell. Now, I am in black, that means I do have kill spells, but that's something that by the time I kill him, I need to make sure I have a way to get rid of it, and I can't make him sacrifice it with Plaguecrafter. He has 3 creatures, so I can't make him sacrifice it with Plaguecrafter, bring it back with Lord of Midnight, and then make him sacrifice something else. Now, at this point, he's top decking. I am not. I have other cards in hand, and he's going to be able to keep swinging with the 4/4. I debate sacrificing Ministrant, blocking with a 1/1, but I decide not to. And then I decide to kill it anyways, but I'm not going to block with the 1/1 because it's not really worth it. I'd rather have the tokens, and you'll see why I want the tokens here in a second, because, ready, what I can do is I can scry first with Woestrider, and then see what it is, and I'm like, is this going to save me? Yes, it is, because, you know, cool. I can tap that to sacrifice it and draw a card. And then what I'm able to do is use Hanged Executioner, which has an ability that lets you pay 4 mana to exile something. So I'm able to exile his Platinum Angel. And at this point, I don't have lethal on him. I am 1 off. So I need him to kill my Woestrider or something. And I'm counting. I'm like, oh no, I can only sacrifice 3 creatures. That means, you know, I can only deal that much damage. Now I swing with both, hoping he's dumb and doesn't block, but then he just concedes. Realizing that he's top decking and there's probably nothing in his deck that can save him. So, again, I'm feeling like really static here. Maybe I'm like, ooh, maybe I'm going to go 7-0. I'll be one of those people on Reddit who's like, look, I went 7-0. Probably wouldn't actually post that, but yeah, it would have been very exciting. But we move on to the next game. I'm still very hyped from the last one. And we're playing, you know, like looking at my hand, I have Witch's Oven, Luminous Broodmoth, and Claim the Firstborn. Now, my hand, looking at it now, doesn't look that great. I do manage to draw my 3rd color, which does add a lot, and I decided to be a little bit more aggressive because they are playing an aggressive deck. I decided to steal their 1/1, sacrifice it turn 2. You know, the very interesting. It might have been better to save that, but it does have to hit things with converted mana cost 3 or less, and just getting rid of that thing is just super nice because I hate it with a passion. And so far, he's not playing anything else I would have rather stolen. I managed to eat the food. I play Luminous Broodmoth, which should stop the attacks at this point, and they'll need something that does 4 damage to kill it because they are playing mono red. Now they play the Weatherlight, which, you know, and then they mess up, they crew it, and they don't realize that it has summoning sickness. But yeah, the Weatherlight is kind of concerning. Now, what I decided to do is kill their creatures, because now they can't crew it. So I just have to hope they can't play a 3/3 or anything that with 2 power. So let's hope they don't do that. At this point, I'm also just looking for another black mana for Ayara. Now, they do target my Luminous Broodmoth and kill it, but I sacrifice it for 2 foods. And then I get Cauldron's Familiar and Witch's Oven. So I finally made the combo work. I finally have both of them. Now he plays Rowdy Crew, which at first I'm like, okay. But then I realize, oh no, he can crew his Weatherlight now. And so he's going to start hitting me for 4, and he's probably going to hit me for, like, gain some historic cards. So I'm, like, worried, and then I'm like, wait, he doesn't really have any historic cards. Maybe he'll just whiff, you know. That's the only historic card he's played, and he whiffs, which I'm like, okay, maybe it's just in here to boost his damage slightly. I don't know. It's kind of a weird card, but maybe he just had to do it. Here, I play my Cauldron Familiar, sacrifice it, replay it, And then the weirdest thing happens. What he does is he decides that, hey, I should do something about this Cauldron Familiar. That's going to get annoying. So he kills it with Bone Crusher Giant. And then lets me replay it. If anything, he just took more damage. Either way, what I decide to do is I decide to play Plague Crafter, sacrificing the Cauldron Familiar, just getting rid of stuff on his side of the board. My idea is maybe I can recur it, play it, get rid of his Rowdy Crew, stop the Weatherlight, all that. I also now have a 3-2 instead of just a 1-1, and I can replay my Cauldron Familiar at any time, assuming he doesn't do some weird shenanigans. But yeah, he decides he's going to try and kill my Playcrafter. He was gonna do something weird with it, like try and exile that card, and I wanted to make sure I could recur it, so I decided I was going to just sacrifice it. I didn't need to, but I decided I was going to do that as a safety precaution, and I wasn't gonna be able to block him anyway, so it doesn't really matter. He does the Weatherite, and he manages to get a Chroma's Memorial, which gives everything like a ton of keywords and protection from black and red, which are basically all of my cards. I have a couple white cards, but that's about it. So at this point, now it's just a race. Can I kill him fast enough? So I decided, you know what, I need to play a creature. It would have been nice to kill or bring down Ayara first, but I need to, have everything. And he's at 8 life. If I can play Ayara, that means 2 damage per turn from Cauldron's Familiar. That's looking pretty good. He's going to hit me for 8. I can take that. Maybe I'll pull some sort of white removal spell or be able to get rid of a Chroma's Memorial. All of that, any of that. And what I'm able to do is, sacrifice the cat, bring it back, if he would let it resolve. And so I'm just, at this point, I'm just trying to basically race the clock. Can I kill him faster than he can kill me with a bunch of flyers that just hit for a ton and are essentially unblockable to my deck? So, he takes 30 years, letting Witch's Oven resolve. And so what I really want is Ayara, because then I can maybe start sacrificing things for cards. I can sacrifice Grey Merchant Asphodel for a card, maybe draw into my answer. Now I do draw it, so then I draw Ayara, play Ayara. And what I'm able to do is I decide I'm going to leave some mana open, because I may want to gain life. I also figure I can't block anything. I should just swing, so, whatever. I managed to deal 1 damage, which 1 damage is a lot here when, next turn, assuming he taps 3 for Weatherlight and then swings with the 4-3, he'll only have 1 blocker, which means if I'm able to attack with both, he'll at least take 1 damage, and then he'll be, I don't know. In my head, that was the best move at the time, and I think it probably still was. I'm able to hit him for 2 and heal 2. Now, he hits me for 8. And I'm like, okay, he can't Devil's Play me for lethal. He just needs something else. So what does he do? He Heartfires me, which can get me close to lethal. Oh, that would have been lethal. But I'm able to do that, and I'm like calculating in my head, how much damage am I taking? Can I just Cauldron Familiar? And the answer is yes, I can. I don't need to sacrifice the food for life, which is good. So I'm able to gain 2 life, he hits me for 4, Devil's Plays, and I'm like, okay, so he's going to Devil's Play me for whatever, for 3, and then I'm like, oh no, Devil's Play me for 3, or Devil's Play Ayara for 3? Oh, please just hit me in the face, because I'm dead anyways. Don't get rid of Ayara. Ayara's card draw, Ayara is so much. But he decides to kill it, which is highly unfortunate, and I draw Argyl's Bloodfast, which is unfortunate that it doesn't just instantly transform, because I am at 5 or less life, and I also don't have enough black mana to activate my castle, but I'm able to draw Hanged Executioner. 1 turn too late. But I could have done this. This is a white removal spell. If they didn't have Trample, I would have won. If I would have drawn that 1 turn earlier, if they wouldn't have killed Ayara, I would have drawn that. I would have been able to exile their 4-3, but it doesn't end up mattering, because they end up getting Drakuseth, which can kill me literally on its attack trigger. It doesn't even need to go to combat, and it has haste due to a Chroma's Memorial. So that was a devastating loss, and I'm like, okay, so I'm not going 7-0. I'm probably being, matched against opponents who they know I'm going to lose against, so that they don't have to give me as many rewards. But this hand, oh my gosh, this hand. I have Cauldron Familiar, Witch's Oven, and claim the Firstborn. So basically removal and a combo along with Priest of the Forgotten Gods. This is pretty awesome. Now, in my head, there are a couple ways you could play this hand. You could play the Temple first, but I think your better bet is playing Cauldron Familiar first, hoping that they can't play a creature, and then you're able to swing as well. The Temple can come in later at turn 3. You know, I don't really... Turn 3, I'm going to probably be playing the Priest, assuming I don't draw anything, so I think that's probably the best move here, but... I can also play it turn 2, because turn 2 I'm only playing the Oven. Now, I get Bastion of Remembrance, which, oh my gosh, again, my hand is getting better by the second, and then a removal spell. So, at this point, my hand, just every single card I draw is just amazing. You know, I'm going to have Cauldron Familiar, and then I am going to have turn 3, I'm going to have Bastion of Remembrance. So, turn 3, I'll be hitting them for 2 every turn. And gaining 2. What I'm able to do is sacrifice it. I'm very close to just blocking it. And the logic behind that is that I'm going to get Bastion of Remembrance out. I'll sacrifice the 1/1 it creates to bring back Cauldron Familiar, but whatever. I decide I'm going to play Bastion of Remembrance and then just have 2 1/1s, you know, both of which can do weird nonsense with sacrificing. And so, you know, he creates a 1/1 with Legions Warboss, he swings with everything. I decide that I am going to block that 2/2, sacrifice Cauldron Familiar, Bastion of Remembrance goes off, each opponent loses a life. I decide that I should wait. I put a stop on it at the end of his turn just to make sure that it does stop, and he plays Thrashing Brontodon, which I'm like, oh no. But then I realize, oh no, it has converted mana cost 3. Claim the Firstborn. So I decide to claim the Firstborn and then swing with everything because, well, everything but the cat, because I'm going to block with the cat. And then I sacrifice his creature, which then I'm like, wait a second, I should have swung with the cat, but whatever. Next, I kill his Legion Warboss because I'm tired of the 1/1s it creates. I really can't deal with them well. He plays Uro, gaining 3 life, which is devastating to this deck because I need every single point of damage I can get. I chip away. He basically just bought himself 2 turns because of the cat combo. So here, you know, he decides whether he's gonna attack or not. If he attacks, I'm blocking because I can just use one of my 2 foods to bring it back. Now, it doesn't stop at his end step, which was kind of unfortunate, but whatever. I probably wouldn't have swung anyways, so it doesn't end up really mattering. I play Priest of the Forgotten Gods, which can trigger because I do have the 2 1/1s, and I have an extra food, which means that I can bring back the Cauldron Familiar, continue with the cat combo, so at that point, that's probably what my plan is going to be, but unfortunately, he does boost his 2/2 and has it fight my Priest. Now, you might have said there was an argument to sacrifice the Priest, and that was probably the better move, but I was like, I'll put some damage on it, scare him a little bit, and then I can just use the cat combo in case he doesn't attack, and he didn't attack, so I'm able to just do the cat combo. I'm still worried this entire time that he's going to kill something. Now, I'm not attacking, so I decided to wait until my turn to play it so that I could have my Witches of an untapped in case he tries to do some weird exile shenanigans with it. You know, that would not be good. So I decided to play it a little safer. But at this point, I also now have Luminous Broodmoth, which is very good. Like we've seen, it can bring things back. You know, I don't actually have to use the food. It just comes back on its own. And yeah, that was the end of him. So then we move on to the next game. And at this point, I would have made back my entry fee if I would have paid one. Again, I got this for free. You can do it too. Just go there. You can get your first one free. And so then we move into the next game. And I'm like, okay, if I can get another really good hand like that, I bet you I can win. And then I can get close to a 7-0. Which I've never done before, which would be very awesome. Now, it would, it's more awesome to do that in an actual draft where the rewards are much more gems, but this was still really fun. At this point, I'm having a blast. This is probably the longest I played MTG Arena straight in a very long time, so I appreciate this. I'm excited for the day when we can make our own cubes, and there's enough cards and enough variations for that to be a thing. I hope that becomes a thing, but yeah, this hand is decent. I have a sack outlet, 2 of them actually. I have a ETB, gain life, deal damage. I have a source of creatures, so not looking bad. And then I get Witch's Oven, which obviously adds to the deck. It adds to the hand, I should say. He's playing a mono red deck, which is concerning because I do want to kind of just it's a race for me, and so if there's a deck that's faster than me, that's pretty bad. So I start being a little bit more aggressive with attacks, making sure I swing with my Priest of the Forgotten Gods whenever I can. Overall, this is looking pretty good, and then he Devil's Plays my source of creatures, which means I can't use Priest's ability. I'm trying to get out enough black sources for Ayara, which means I probably should have left that black source there, but I really don't have any creatures to sacrifice, so I really need something to get me out of this situation. So if you notice, I need a lot of different things right now. So what I actually need is a board wipe. I want some sort of board wipe right now, so that when he floods the board, I can maybe save myself. And then he decided to kill my priest, so at this point he's basically clearing my side. I want to be able to clear his, and he has a 4/4 and a 2/1, and I'm just like, I'm gonna get hit for 4, and he uses his mana and then plays something with it that has haste, which at first I was like, oh, you're so dumb, but that actually ended up working out. He swings at me for a ton. I'm super low on life. He managed to do exactly what he wanted to do. But I do manage to play a 2/3, and I'm like, okay, I can block the Glinthorn Buccaneer, I can block the 2/1. So what do? I'm like, no, I'm actually just going to block the 1/1. I don't know why I didn't block the 2/4. That wasn't very smart. And then he plays Embercleave. And what happens is I decide, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice the 1/1 so I can survive and use the food, which, it saves me 1 damage versus I can gain 3 life, which is the perfect amount I need. I see, is there anything in my graveyard? No. Legion Warboss, play it, and then just concede. So that was the end. I play that, I concede. Embercleave ended up being the death of me, which is kind of fitting. Either way, that was a ton of fun, and I recommend everyone check it out. If you haven't played MTG Arena, obviously go download it. You can also get this for free. Just a note, the draft itself is Phantom, so that does mean you won't get to keep any of the cards you draft, but it was a very fun experience, especially for free, and makes me want to do more of them. Either way, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.